Extreme close-up!
So powerful. So romantic.
I'm from Sweden.
Schmergen.
So breathtaking.
We're not worthy!
That was just like the first movie.
If you've been waiting for a motion picture to change your life,
Would you like to have dinner some night?
Oh, I like to have dinner every night.
so are we. Wayne's World 2.
Are you wearing fruit?
My woman likes me in cologne.
Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, December 10th.
Part 2 of our special 2-part Waynestock episode, Wayne's World 2, starts right now. Welcome back to Part 2 of Waynestock, Wayne's World 2. Lucas, you back again?
I'm back again.
All right. This is the second part, Wayne's World 2. I think I'll dig into the talking points here real quick. How do you feel Wayne's World 2 versus Wayne's World 1?
I still think 1 is better, but I really enjoy 2. Like Del Preston. Oh, man. I love that guy in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So there are like characters that I like more in 2, but I think overall I like the first movie better. Still, 2 is very good. Like I have nothing negative to say about it, but yeah, I like the first one a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. Like I used to be in the 2 is better camp for a long time, but watching them almost back to back over the last few days, I think 1 is a better movie. It seems to have a more cohesive story, whereas 2 seems to be like just ways to get to the next bit. But there's not a lot of comedy sequels that are as good or if not better than the first one, and I think this is one of the rare ones that is. Actually, right before we started recording, I was just like looking through comedy sequels to see like which ones were, and like there wasn't a lot. I mean, there was like The Naked Gun 2. The first choice was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which that one for sure. That one's probably better than Vacation, although both are great. And then Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me is better than the original. But yeah, there wasn't a lot.
Is The Spy Who Shagged Me, is that the one where they introduced Mini-Me?
Yes, that's Mini-Me and Fat Bastard are both in those.
Yep, I like that one better.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. And like you said, and I think you made a really good point, I think the supporting cast is much better in this one. I mean, you got Del Preston. I think Chris Farley gets a bigger role in this as a different character. I think he's fantastic in it. Mm-hmm. He really cracks me up. You get some really good stuff from like Kevin Pollak has a really good scene in it. The 2 nerds, which I'll get into those guys later on. That scene's really good too. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's funnier bits in this one, but I think Wayne's World 1's a little bit better.
Right, but I mean, it's like, flip a coin.
Yeah, they're both really good. You're not going to lose either way, but just do what we did and just watch both of them over the last few days.
And that's why we're talking about both of them. We want you guys to experience the Waynestock.
Mm-hmm. Another question I had for you is I was looking at the box office for this, and it wasn't nearly as successful as the first one. What would be your thoughts on that?
Am I guessing how much I think it was?
No. I didn't. Not guessing how much it made, but why do you think it wasn't as successful?
I don't know. Maybe the bits, maybe the characters lost their popularity a little bit. It could be some movies came out that at the same time that probably were a little bigger. That could be a possibility.
Well, that's I was researching that because that's like the first thing when I was doing the research for this. I was wondering like why I wouldn't say it bombed, but it did make a lot of its money back. I think it broke even. But in this time frame, you had Schindler's List was out, The Pelican Brief, which at the time John Grisham movies were like huge because I think that was the second one after The Firm.
Okay.
The Firm was a big hit. This one was also a big hit. You had Mrs. Doubtfire was in its third weekend, and that movie was a monster at the box office.
I think that is actually Tina's favorite comedy, may even be her favorite movie of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Also, I thought this was kind of funny. Sister Act 2 opened the same day, which was the sequel to a very successful comedy. I think Sister Act was 91 or 92.
Not sure. That's a sequel that I like as much as the original, by the way. My sister and my mom watch those movies religiously.
Oh, really?
Pun intended.
But yeah, like you had those movies, and then Addams Family Values was also in its like fourth weekend. So you had 4 comedies in the top 10 at the box office. Wayne's World's opening weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of rough to break into. Sister Act was 92.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, it even came out the same year as the original Wayne's World. But yeah,
that's a lot of, that's an overload of comedy. So
yeah, I think that's the reason why. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. I just like when you've got all those kind of movies, like trying to essentially vie for the same audience. No one's going to win.
yeah, and sometimes people, will pick movies. They'll pick one movie that they want to go see, as opposed to seeing several. So it could have just been one of those things where they picked a different movie, just wanted to spend their money elsewhere that week.
Yeah, that's how I was. Like I was notorious for seeing movies multiple times in the theaters, the same thing, and I think I only got to see Wayne's World once. Wayne's World 2 once at the movie theater. So that tells you how crowded that marketplace was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I think it was. I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. And I don't really think it's like people tired of the characters because it's really only like about a year and a half after the first one.
It's a quick turnaround for a sequel.
Well, I mean, I think it's to make sure that it made as much money as it could. Because nowadays, like Wayne's World 2 would have been like 15 years later.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I have. We'll just go right into the tail of the tape so we can get into the categories. What do you think?
Sounds good.
The only reason I wanted to do the talking points is I just thought it'd be really cool to lead off with like which one you preferred, 1 versus 2.
I think you do an excellent job hosting this show.
I'm glad somebody does. You're the first person that has told me that I do an awesome job at hosting. It's usually like, you're all right. Or you could do better. I don't know. I may not be a point guard. I'm more like I don't facilitate well, but you get me in the lane. I'm going to score.
So you're like LeBron. Sometimes you'll play the point just because it's time to take over.
Yeah, I'm like
LeBron.
I'm the LeBron James of shitty movie podcast. Okay, the tail of the tape for Wayne's World 2. This one was released on December the 10th, 1993. Directed by Steven Surgic. I guess that's his name. I guess there's the one name I'll butcher in this episode.
I don't think you butchered anybody's name in the last episode.
I didn't, but this is a 2-parter, so
still counts then, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Kept keeping the streak alive. This one stars Mike Myers and Dana Carvey. Tia Carrere is also back for part 2. Christopher Walken and Ralph Brown round out the main cast. Rotten Tomatoes score is 60% from critics and 63% from audiences. And as we were kind of discussing earlier, on a $40 million budget, only made $48.2 million. So wasn't a big hit. And this movie is currently not streaming anywhere, which we told you Wayne's World 1's not streaming anywhere either. So
right,
get on it, HBO or Paramount Plus, HBO Max, somebody.
$80 million from the first movie to the second movie difference. That's a really big drop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. But I don't know. Movie-going audiences are real fickle.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So, do you want to go into research corner first? Because I found some fairly interesting facts about this.
Yeah, what you got, man?
Okay. Well, for the research corner, first one, I thought this was really cool, and I think it would have been awesome if they decided to do it. But Nirvana was offered a chance to be in this movie. They even showed Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic a rough cut of the movie, and they both they said they weren't interested in doing it. Even though Kurt Cobain was apparently a big fan of the first one.
Yeah, that's weird.
Rob Lowe was approached to play the villain in this one, but playing a different character altogether.
Oh.
But
I don't know if I like that idea.
Yeah, he opted not to because he was afraid that audiences would get confused. Like, it's the same actor playing two different roles, so he decided not to do it, and then they got Christopher Walken instead.
Well, we were talking about Chris Farley being in this one. I got a little confused. I thought it was the same character at first.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until they said his name that I really realized that it wasn't.
Right. Yeah, I guess I never really thought about that when I seen it in theaters. Like, is he supposed to be the security guard?
Yeah, I thought he was.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think at that time, too, I didn't really remember Chris Farley as much as I did when he was in the second one. I think he had started to gain some steam on SNL. Oh.
Yeah.
The bad licorice scene that when Wayne or Garth is telling the crowd, like, hey, there's some bad red rope licorice circulating through the crowd. That's kind of a homage to Woodstock 69, where the promoters got on and told people that there was bad brown acid circulating through the crowd.
Oh, wow.
This one I thought was very, very interesting. The original idea for Wayne's World 2 had Wayne and Garth forming their own country and seceding from the United States.
Yeah, I don't think I like that idea. I like the idea that they came up with for this movie, making it Waynestock.
The premise was based on the 1949 British film Passport to Pimlico. But Paramount didn't notice how similar the two movies were until they got late into pre-production. So, and they couldn't get the rights to it. So Sherry Lansing, who was a Paramount executive at the time, I think she's now Tom Cruise's production partner for like the Mission Impossible stuff.
Okay.
Top Gun, basically the only stuff Tom Cruise makes anymore.
Yeah.
She threatened Mike Myers with a lawsuit, even threatened to take his house for putting them in that situation.
Good
And
Lord.
she told him that he had to come up with a new idea for the movie and for him not to come back until he got a new idea.
Okay, well, it's a giant ballsy dick move by that lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, though, I like this idea much better than this forming their own country. I mean, it may have worked, but that idea on paper doesn't sound very good.
It doesn't sound as good as what we got.
Right. The last one I have is the Brown M&M story that Dell tells throughout the whole movie is based off of a real life story. Van Halen, in their 1982 during their world tour, they had a tour writer, which basically is like a list of demands or that the promoters have to meet for the band to play, and they put they needed a jar of M&Ms with the brown ones taken out, and they put that in there to make sure that the promoter basically adhered to every single safety standard that they had for the tour, because I guess this is like the first big tour where these huge stage setups, all these lights and everything were put into production for each night. So they did it to make sure that, like, okay, well, this safety standard needs to be put in place. That one needs to be put in place. And they could always tell that a promoter didn't do it when they didn't see the M&Ms without the brown ones in their dressing room.
It's a good idea. Originally, it just sounds like they're just being a diva.
Yeah, they did it to make sure that they read it to the very end.
Well, that's good.
Because I guess
good idea.
I was reading that it was a show in Colorado, they didn't do it, and I guess the lighting was so heavy that it started, or something with the stage was too heavy, and it couldn't support, the stage itself couldn't support one of the props on stage, and the stage collapsed.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So that's all I got. What do you got, dude?
So the filming for the Aerosmith concert at the beginning of the movie supposedly takes place in Chicago. It actually took place in California, in San Diego, California. And
San Diego.
Mike Myers. What's that?
San Diego.
San Diego. Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were actually in the audience for the filming. So
Oh, really?
they were actually there. Yeah, at the concert. So I thought it was really cool. I'm also jealous because I'd really like to see Aerosmith.
Yeah, that's one of the few bands I haven't seen yet either.
Wayne's visions of meeting Jim Morrison in the desert were inspired by him going on a spiritual journey after his father died, after Mike Myers' father died. He went on a spiritual journey, and his visions of Jim Morrison were based off of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is cool and really sad at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Not so much of a fun fact.
Yeah. You know me, I'm just full of fun facts of death and all that other fun stuff. When Cassandra is watching Wayne's World on TV, the episode is a real skit from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I remember the Leprechaun one.
Yeah. So that is all the facts I have.
All right. That's some good stuff. Yeah, I remember the Leprechaun one because I was like, fuck, they've done that before. They're recycling that. And then I guess it makes sense to save time.
Yeah. Well, plus, I mean, it's already pre-done for you, so you don't have to do it over again.
Okay, the I Drink Your Milkshake Award for the best scene of the movie.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
My 5 nominees are the first time Dell tells the brown M&M story at Stan Mikita's.
Mm-hmm.
I think out of all the Wayne's World movies, I think that's the lines I reference the most. Because sometimes it's like, it's so fucking, that story is so out there. And it seems like it changes a little bit each time because he doesn't remember it exactly. So I think it always gets changed up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's the artists that are involved. I think like Jeff Beck is on there once. And then Keith Moon is another time.
Mm-hmm.
That story is just so ludicrous, and it cracks me up every time he tells it. Fun fact for you, too. The actor that plays him, he actually played that in another movie, almost the same character.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forget the name of the movie off the top of my head, but yeah, he plays it almost verbatim. The same hair, the same look, the same accent, everything. This is I guess they call it a spiritual, like, reincarnation of that character from this movie.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. And I also didn't know this till much later. He is a pilot in Star Wars Episode 1.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I have his action figure at my house.
Huh, that's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Which I wish I knew somebody that did the alterations where you can like make the figures, like you can change something about him. I would just like, hey, can you paint him up to be Del Preston?
Put on a great show.
I might try that impression at some point later on in the show.
Nice.
The second nominee is I have Wayne fights Cassandra's dad in their apartment. I just love that scene because it's like I think it's a pretty good send up of like whenever like really good martial arts movies get dubbed for the U.S., they kind of lose a little bit of their appeal because of how bad they dub them.
Yeah, it was ridiculously dubbed. I have that same one, and I wrote it down as the horribly dubbed fight with Cassandra's dad.
Yeah, that's actually even a better title. I have Garth and Honey Hornay's date. That's got some of the best stuff in the movie, and we'll save like the lines for later on. But I really love that. And then like the next morning, Garth comes out with the robe, and he's got the pipe that blows the bubbles, and he's just spoofing Cary Grant.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I wasn't too much of an animal. I just love that.
Good morning, darling.
And he asked later on when she's playing the smooth jazz, or early in the scene when she's playing the smooth jazz, if she's got any Megadeth. I fucking love that. I have Wayne stops Cassandra's wedding. It's pretty much not shot for shot, but it's a pretty accurate recreation of the Graduate scene, where Dustin Hoffman's character tries to stop Catherine Ross from getting married.
Yeah.
It's even when you get that really good bit, which we used early on, I think, for the award for the best bit performance was the I Once Knew a Girl on Gordon Street.
Yeah.
And like the first time I seen that, just totally caught me off guard when they sub out the regular actor for Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
I think I said to my buddies, like, fuck, that's Charlton Heston, who I knew from Planet of the Apes and stuff like that.
Right.
And then the last one I have is the multiple endings. I love how they do those. And they swapped out the Scooby-Doo ending for they did the sad ending where Wayne and Garth are pretty much going to die in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like that one, so they said basically like, fuck it, we're going to go out in a blaze of glory. So they do the Thelma and Louise ending, which if anyone's seen that, that's kind of how that movie ends too. And then, of course, they do the happy ending like they always do. So those are my 5.
Let's see. I have when they first met Del Preston at his house. He's hanging upside down like a fucking bat.
Yep.
And he's like, this adds to 10 years onto your life. Just ask Keith Richards.
I actually, that might be coming up in a little bit.
Nice. When they were spying on Cassandra as the village people, I thought that was hilarious too.
Yeah, even when they go to the bar and they do the YMCA dance, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like, that's one of those scenes that like the way that they're dressed, you kind of seen that coming.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
oh, yeah.
There's going to be a Village People reference somewhere. And the fact that they have the Native American and the Vision, like Wayne's Vision Quest, I'm like, that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. When they were doing the roadie tryouts and they were shooting the tennis balls at them, like people throwing shit from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Farley's like getting pelted, and the way he was screaming and yelling was just fucking hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
When they meet Handsome Dan, and he's not so handsome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Dansome Ham.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have when Aerosmith shows up and rocks the show at the end.
Yeah, that's kind of like part of the Wayne, the happy ending where Wayne or Aerosmith plays. Because I think that's like that's Get a Grip had just come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like 10 months earlier or something.
Yeah.
So that's the ones I have.
So who wins?
Probably Del when he's telling the story about the brown M&Ms.
Yeah, like I think it's between that. I really like when Wayne stops the wedding, simply because like they nailed the Graduate stuff pretty good, and then even when like he's banging on the window, and then Cassandra's dad turns around, looks at him, and he mumbles "son of a bitch" under his breath. And then Christopher Walken does the same thing, and then they do the priest. He says "son of a bitch" too. I don't know why it always makes me laugh, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Del Preston telling the story, just because like it just kind of gives you a glimpse that this guy's fucking burned out.
Yeah,
and I bet he's lived a wild life.
He's seen some shit.
He has. So I'm going to go with that one, too. That's a really good one. The King Kong Ain't Got Shit on Me award for the best line of the movie.
King Kong ain't got shit on me!
I have it's not really a line. It's more like a string of dialogue.
Yes.
So there I am in Sri Lanka, formerly Ceylon, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, looking for 1,000 brown M&Ms to fill a brandy glass, or Ozzy wouldn't go on stage that day. So Jeff Beck pops his head around the door and mentions there's a little sweet shop on the edge of town. So we go, and it's closed. So there's me and Keith Moon and David Crosby breaking into that little sweet shop. Well, instead of a guard dog, they've got this bloody great big Bengal tiger. I managed to take out the tiger with a can of mace, but the shop owner and his son were a different story altogether. I had to beat them to death with their own shoes. Nasty business, really. But sure enough, I got the M&Ms, and Ozzy went on stage and did a great show.
I have that one too. I have that entire dialogue too.
Yeah, I copied it from IMDb. It was like, I can't remember it verbatim, so I'm just going to copy it down.
Oh man, it's so funny.
It was hard to pinpoint one particular line, but the Honey Hornet Garth scene back at her house when she says, "Take me, Garth," and then Garth says, "Take you where? I'm low on gas and you need a jacket." And then also she says, "I'm going to be Frank," and he goes, "Okay, can I still be Garth?" I'm like, damn, that's fucking gold.
And then she says something, and he's like, "Do you have any Megadeth?"
Yeah, he mentions that too. I also have when Wayne and Garth are at the office to get the forms for Waynestock.
Mm-hmm.
And they find like Kevin Pollak takes his glasses off and he's the ocular albino.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, he's telling them like they need the money, they need to have everything filled out 10 days before the event. And then they start making the references to his eye. He goes, "I think I have an eye for detail," but the one that I really liked was, "We'll take this home and cross all the T's and dot the lowercase J's."
Yeah,
I still use
have
that
one
one
written down too.
You mentioned it earlier, but it's the scene or the line goes, "Listen, Sonny Jim, sleeping like this will add 10 years to your life. I learned from Keith Richards when I toured with the Stones. This may be the reason why Keith cannot be killed by conventional weapons."
And it's so true. He's still alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the last one is when Wayne asked Dell, he goes, "Is that you with Bob Dylan? Who's that old lady?" And he replies back with, "That's my old lady."
Yeah, we pretty much have all the same ones on this. Although I had one from when they first meet him at his apartment, and they're talking about having the half naked Indian and Jim Morrison. He goes, "Didn't you think it was a little bit unnecessary to see the crack in that Indian's bottom?"
Oh, yeah. Or he goes, "Did you find it to be a trite unnecessary to see the crack in that Indian's bottom?"
Oh God, that was so funny.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you who wins.
Who wins all the lines?
Unless you have any more nominees to add.
It's definitely Del Preston going through the whole spiel about the little sweet shop.
You know what? Like, Ralph Brown, who plays Del Preston, is on a roll on this episode right now. He may end up sweeping most of these.
Yeah.
You know what? I bet we may have had a chance to get him on here.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to get our producer on that. See if we can like run it back and interview him later.
Yeah, the Wayne's World Part D, or something like that.
The revisit.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in agreement. It's the Del Preston telling the Eminem story again. So yeah, he's 2 for 2 so far. The Lou Brown Give 'Em the Heater Award for the best bit performance.
Forget about the curveball, Ricky. Give him a heater.
Who do you have as your nominees?
I have Ed O'Neill again as Glenn.
He gets dark in this one. I mean, like, real fucking dark.
Yeah, it does. Like, rip their beating heart out. And,
Yeah, I'm like, whoa.
James Hong as Jeff Wong. Harry Shearer as Handsome Dan. And Chris Farley as Milton.
Okay, wow, your list is completely different than mine.
Sweet. That's the way it should be.
I have Kim Basinger as Honey Hornet, just simply for that name. And she's actually really good playing the femme fatale who's essentially trying to seduce Garth to kill her husband.
Mm-hmm.
I have Kevin Pollak as the guy at the office. I have Charlton Heston as the gas station attendant. Simply because we named the award after him for a while.
Yeah.
And then the two nerds at the Aerosmith show. One of those guys is Bob Odenkirk.
Oh, wow, it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the two guys are Robert Smigel, who writes for he used to write for Saturday Night Live. I don't know if he still does. And then Bob Odenkirk's the other one.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So we've got 8 nominees.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
I'll
let you pick.
I'm going with Kim Basinger.
I mean, she was really good as the femme fatale, as you said.
Yeah. And I mean, she's not in it long. Like, I think this is the one award. Like, I almost thought about, like, can Ralph Brown qualify for this one too? But he's in it a little too much.
Yeah.
He's essentially the third. I think he's the third lead in this. I think he's in there almost as much as Tia Carrere.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got to give it to her. Although it was hard to just narrow them down. Like, your choices are really good. Drew Barrymore's in there for a second.
As the Swedish receptionist.
Björgen near the Kiergan Fjörgs. Yeah, her being in there. Yeah, that one was really good too. Harry Shearer as Handsome Dan. Also, Ted McGinley is in it. He's the Mr. Scream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's him. He was Jefferson and Married with Children.
Oh, yeah. I knew him from somewhere.
Yep, that's him. Rip Taylor as Rip Taylor. Rip Taylor's awesome.
Yeah, he was funny.
Yeah, I mean, Kim Basinger, but like those were all good nominees. Can't go wrong with any of them. Oh, Heather Locklear's in it too for a brief minute too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we were saying before, all the bit players in this movie, like all the side actors, were all excellent in this.
Yeah,
and better than the first movie, in our opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. Like they beefed up the supporting players a little bit better.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll go Kim Basinger. I think that's a good winner. Which I found out.
Argue.
Little fun fact about that. Apparently, she didn't want to do this movie, but Dana Carvey gave the script to Alec Baldwin because Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger used to be married. I know they're not anymore. Because I know there was a thing with Alec Baldwin's wife was pretending to be Spanish, I think, and she's not.
Oh, is that her?
Yeah, that was a big brush up.
Oh, boy.
But when Alec Baldwin hosted Saturday Night Live, Dana Carvey gave him the script to give to her, and he told her she needed to do this, so that's how she ended up being in the movie.
Well, I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
Because she is our Lou Brown winner.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she foreseen that. She's like, there's going to be a small 2-bit podcast 30 years down, or 25, 30 years down the road. They're going to give me an award, so I should probably do it for that reason.
Well, that's why she is so big, because she had the foresight.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing. The Eric Stoltz Award for the part that needs recast. I actually have somebody for this one. Do you have anybody you want to nominate first?
I have Christopher Walken And I told you the reason I have it. I was laughing at my own notes. I put because you can get anyone to play a greaseball dick face. so just anyone in that role. I think you can have a villain. Now I do like Christopher Walken in this movie, and I wouldn't necessarily want to replace him, but I just think you could.
Right. Well, you don't it's one of those awards where like it's probably not going to pop up every week, but if you think that you could redo that somebody better, then go for it. Do you have anybody in mind that could have done it? I mean, you said anybody, but I'm kind of curious to see who you had specifically in mind.
Well, speaking of like Tommy Boy, I think Dan Aykroyd could have done it. I think he plays a pretty good villain.
Yeah, I don't know Dan Aykroyd, though. I just don't buy him as somebody that could sweep Cassandra off of her feet, to where Cassandra would think about marrying him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see Walken pulling that off a little bit more.
I don't know. Dan Aykroyd's got quite a bit of charm to him.
He does, but I can't see him doing doing it like Walken can. I have a nominee for this category too, and it's Michael Nichols, who plays Jim Morrison. Now, since obviously Oliver Stone's version of The Doors is kind of the basis for Jim Morrison being in this, and they spent $40 million on this movie, so I don't understand where all that money went. But why not see if you can get Val Kilmer to do it? He had played Jim Morrison in The Doors. I think it would have been funny. Maybe Val Kilmer was approached and just decided that, no, I'm not going to make fun of myself for that, and maybe he turned it down. But I think that would have been really cool to see him kind of have a little fun with that role and just okay, I'll do it, and just be in Wayne's World.
Yeah, that's a good point. That would have been really cool. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been a nice little call out to his movie too.
Right. But I think it's just one of those things where Val Kilmer takes himself too seriously.
Could be.
And I couldn't see him doing it. Which is sad too, because I thought that would have been really funny to have him actually be Jim Morrison.
Yeah. You shouldn't really, with anything you do, you really shouldn't take yourself too seriously.
No, you shouldn't. We don't here. That's why the quality's so bad.
Well, it's mostly my quality.
All right. Fair point.
Fuck you.
All right. Well, the last award we've got is, of course, the King of the World award for who wins the movie.
I'm the King of the World!
I don't know, the admiration he's gotten from us so far, I think this is a pretty easy call. But who do you have? Or do you have any other nominees?
I'll just for argument's sake, we already know who we've picked to win this. But just for argument's sake, I have Dana Carvey as Garth, because I feel like in this movie he was much better and more to the forefront as Garth in this movie as opposed to the first one.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's a very good point. He's really given an opportunity to shine in this one. I think he's more of the sidekick to set up Mike Myers more in part one, where he has more to do in this one. That's a good point. And I think the best scene in the whole movie is honestly the Garth and Honey Hornay in her house. To me, that's the one scene in this movie that I always laugh out loud every time I watch it.
Yeah.
That's to me, it's the best scene in the movie. There's so much good stuff going on in that. But do you have anybody else?
No. Well, I have the winner.
The winner, Ralph Brown as Del Preston. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to give it to anybody else. You can make the case for Carvey and even Mike Myers being able to pull off, since he was primarily responsible for the writing on this, crafting a pretty solid sequel, which we said earlier, comedy sequels are not very good. Probably 90% of the time they're turds.
Yeah.
But this is one of the rare occasions where they're pretty good, and I could maybe see him having a case for it. You made a very good point with Dana Carvey, but yeah, it's got to be Del. It's got to be Ralph Brown.
Yeah, because it's just, I mean, that character is just so over the top and fucking hilarious, and we know somebody who is kind of like a Del Preston, Tony Sturr.
Yeah, I don't think he was quite as burned out as him, but yeah, like everybody knows that one like friend that is just like party too hard and like he just isn't all the way there. I mean, he's even talking about like, we didn't even mention this as part of like the best scenes, the best lines, but he has, when they're training, like he basically's telling them like, we need to have one guy running the backstage. We need to have one guy running the front stage. They're talking about pill boxes with machine guns. Yeah. They have cyanide capsules if shit goes south. It's like, I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
What kind of shit have you been into?
Right. What kind of music festival required fucking machine guns and cyanide capsules? But
when
yeah,
Metallica played in front of 1 million people.
That's a very good point. But yeah, I think he steals every scene he's in. I mean, like, even though they start to beat that the Eminem story into the ground a little bit, it still works within the context of the story.
I would have been cool with like a Del Preston throwback movie.
You know what? That would make, if Mike Myers and if he's interested in revisiting that world, I could easily see that being like a mini series on Paramount Plus, since they own Wayne's World. Yeah, just do like a five episode, like the trials and tribulations of Del Preston, or the adventures of Del Preston. I'd fucking watch that.
See that night where he had to go get Ozzy his M&Ms.
Yeah, they probably won't show the shopkeeper and his kid getting beaten to death, but I think it would just be amusing to see him at Woodstock. Because remember, he says that he remembers Woodstock. It rained for a while, then it cleared up, and he almost had another thought, but then he forgot it.
Yeah, like what the hell was he doing there?
Right. But yeah, like, make that happen. Somebody. That would be totally cool. Well, I don't think Wayne's World has the appeal that it did back then, or that it does back then that it does now. But
yeah, but there's still like people around our age that would, for nostalgia, even nostalgia purposes, would watch it. Right.
Well, I think you'd have to get Wayne and Garth back together to jumpstart it. Because I mean,
well, they're at least friendly now.
Yeah, I was reading some of that stuff. Like, their relationship it went from being like that coworker that you're cordial with but not friends with, to they got pretty icy.
Yeah,
which is sad, because that's a really good comedy team, and just, I know ego's getting away. And Mike Myers always struck me as a type that had like a super huge ego.
Well, you read stories about him, being a total asshole, like the director, the first one, not wanting to work with him on the second one, and him possibly even barring her from working on the second one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so Del Preston almost sweeps the entire categories. He pulls a Return of the King type run here on the Wayne's World 2 episode.
Yeah, he does.
All right, so do you have any final thoughts on our Waynestock episode?
No, well, maybe, like, I feel like these two movies, watching them back to back, has been really fun to revisit and, remind me of all the lines that we use to each other all the time, and when we used to work together, how we would say all this shit all the time, and it was just fun to revisit all that stuff. Yeah, like, just going back and watching these, it was just really fun to reminisce on, like, it took me back to the time where, like, I practically lived at the movie theater. Like, I was there all the time during this era. It was really fun to look back at, like, some of the stuff that I loved as I wasn't a kid, but I was much younger than I am now. And I think both these movies still hold up really well. Like, I think part 2 really, like, I think one has a better story, but they both have really good, like, they both reference, like, pop culture very well at the time. And
I mean, being a child of that era, like that stuff still really resonates with me.
So let me ask you this before we go. Who wins out of both movies?
Who wins the Waynestock? It's Dana
wins
Carvey and
Waynestock?
Mike Myers. It's their show. Like they're like the two guys. Like for one, like I reiterated in the Wayne's World 1 episode, but like, can you really see anybody else playing these two guys?
No.
Yeah, see, neither could I.
Yeah,
And
they
I don't
brought
think
these characters to life.
I don't think
so.
this. Well, now since rock music is not really very popular, but like even if they tried, like I just don't think you could even remake that today.
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, I think that as a whole, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey win. But it was too easy to let them win part 2, so we had to give it to somebody else.
Well, yeah, but I still think.
Yeah, he's
I
still
think
fantastic.
Ralph
though.
Brown won it anyway.
I'm totally cool with that. I'm totally cool with him winning it. And he's probably the one guy that we can actually mail him the "You Won Our Movie" award, and he would like, oh, cool. He'd put it up and display it. He wouldn't crumple it up, or it would even make it to him. Like I think it would actually make it to him.
I gotta go warm the printer up.
Maybe we should start doing that, though. I think that'd be really funny.
I do think. And hey, you never know. They might listen to it one time.
Yeah, one time it's just like, God, this is hot trash, and just never listen to it again. And they'd probably tweet about it, which would get more people to listen to us. And pretty soon that 5-star rating on Apple is going to be like a 1.5-star rating. But
Well worth it, though.
that's right. Harrison Ford tweeted that we were hot trash.
I would give anything for Harrison Ford to call me hot trash.
Yeah, so would I. He would probably say it too. All right, well, that's going to wrap up our special 2-part Waynestock episode. Be sure to check out the first one. I guess it makes sense to listen to one before you listen to this one. So that wraps up our special 2-part Waynestock episode where you heard our thoughts on Wayne's World 1 and 2. Lucas, what do we got coming up next Monday?
We have my favorite movie of all time, Forrest Gump.
Wow, that should be interesting. That should be pretty decent dialogue. We'll save it for the show, but you know how I feel about Forrest Gump. So tune in next Monday to hear potentially Lucas and I have a verbal fist fight, or maybe not. But we will catch you guys next Monday. See you, everybody.
Bye.